The Dodgers just became the first Major League Baseball team in 25 years to win back-to-back championships. And instead of acknowledging greatness, too many people are crying foul. Oh, the Dodgers are ruining baseball with their massive payroll, Shohei Ohtani's deferred money deal, and their growing influence in signing Japanese stars. I'm not even a Dodgers fan, but let's be real, that's a load of bullshit. The Dodgers are not ruining baseball. They're just a better run organization than everyone else. If anyone's to blame, it's everyone else for not being as well run as the Dodgers. The Dodgers bringing in Japanese stars is nothing new. They've been laying down the groundwork for decades. Back in 1956, the Brooklyn Dodgers played exhibition games in Japan that involved cultural exchanges, which built bridges before most teams even looked overseas. Then came Ike Ikuhara, hired by the then Dodgers executive and eventual owner Peter O'Malley in 1965. Ikuhara was a quiet legend who turned those goodwill tours into real scouting pipelines. Fast forward to 1995, the first Japanese-born player to play Major League Baseball since Masanori Murakami in 1964. Any guess who that guy was? Hideo Nomo. His success opened the door for more Japanese players to come to the major leagues. West Coast teams also have an advantage when it comes to bringing in players from Japan because they are closer to Japan, but you can't be mad at the Dodgers for being able to bring in the best ones or having an opportunity to bring in more with 5 of them posting this winter and Shotai Imanaga becoming a free agent. Other teams could have signed Yamamoto, but the Dodgers were willing to make him the highest paid pitcher in MLB history before he even threw one major league pitch. Okay, the Mets were unlucky because they actually matched the Dodgers offer, but Ohtani already signing with the Dodgers definitely gave them more leverage than Kodai Senga being with the Mets. The Yankees made a big offer, but it wasn't big enough. The Giants and Blue Jays were in the mix, but didn't make a strong enough push. Oh, imagine if the Blue Jays had Yamamoto instead. We thought Yamamoto would be great, but did we actually know that he would be able to dominate Game 6 of the World Series, then do it again as a relief pitcher the very next day in Game 7, something that hasn't been done since Randy Johnson did it in 2001? Or just be amazing, especially in the World Series in general? No. Even in between Nomo and the Japanese trio that the Dodgers have now, in 2002 and 03, the Mariners had a trio of Japanese-born players in Ichiro, Kazuhiro Sasaki, and Shigetoshi Hasegawa. They won over 90 games in both those seasons, but also missed the playoffs. They would have made the playoffs with today's format, and maybe things could have been different, but that's only a what if. They didn't dominate their competition like the Dodgers are now when they had 3 Japanese players on their team. The Dodgers also have had Japanese players play for them after Nomo and before the trio that they have now. As for Ohtani's deferred money, nothing in the rules say you can't do that, and it's not the first time a deferred contract has ever been signed either. July 1st is widely known as Bobby Bonilla Day because of Bonilla negotiating a deal with the Mets that's had the Mets paying him $1.19 million on July 1st every year from 2011 to 2035 when they plan to release him at the end of the 1999 season. How many of you knew that the Orioles have been paying Bonilla $500,000 every year since 2004 and will until 2028 because of a deferred contract with them? There's also Ken Griffey Jr.'s contract with the Reds, where he was still being paid $3.5 million a year until last year, and he last played for the Reds back in 2008. Ohtani's deferred contract is just one that's worked out a lot better than previous deferred contracts. Yes, unlike the examples I've just mentioned, he's getting paid very little for a player of his caliber now, while set to get paid by the Dodgers what he's actually worth only after he retires. But still, if it's not against the rules, you can't blame the Dodgers. They're just doing a better job at assembling a team than everyone else. They could have easily spent the rest of their money on some horrible contracts. In fact, Tanner Scott and Michael Conforto were 2 off-season acquisitions that didn't work out. They still already built a strong enough foundation for themselves for those acquisitions that didn't work out to not hurt them in the long run. Now on to some teams for who is to blame for the Dodgers' success, if anyone, starting with the Angels, who are also a West Coast team, and if they didn't have a completely incompetent owner, they could have been doing what the Dodgers are doing now. They had Shohei Ohtani for 6 seasons. The first 3 seasons seasons were while Mike Trout was still in his prime and widely regarded as the best player in the world, and they still couldn't even sniff the playoffs. By the time Trout started getting derailed by injuries, Ohtani was top 2 in AL MVP voting the next 3 years and won the award twice, and still they couldn't even sniff the playoffs. The Angels could have kept Ohtani and went all in on Yamamoto if Art Moreno was actually a competent owner. It's not like the Angels are a moneyball team. Art Moreno is the 8th richest owner in Major League Baseball. The Angels were able to give Albert Pujols, Josh Hamilton, and Anthony Rendon huge contracts that they did not live up to. They were still able to pay Ohtani $30 million in his last season while paying Trout and Rendon more and still avoided the luxury tax. Next, the Boston Red Sox, and thank you for trading Mookie Betts and not getting nearly enough in return. They pretty much handed Mookie to the Dodgers. John Henry wanted to retool the roster for another World Series run, and he really thought not paying one of the team's top players, a guy a year removed from an MVP season, was the answer. But not only that, he got an absolutely terrible return package. Alex Verdugo, Connor Wong, and Jeter Downs. Of those 3 guys, Wong is the only one still on the Red Sox and only hit 190 this year. On the other hand, the Dodgers have won 3 World Series with Mookie Betts. Mookie may have not been his usual self this year after getting sick to start the year, which made him lose a lot of weight when he's not a big guy to begin with, but he was still able to hit .317 from August 5th until the end of the regular season to help the Dodgers win the NL West for the 4th straight season. He may have had a bad postseason as a whole statistically, but he still had games where he made a big contribution, like Game 2 of the wild card round, in which he went 4 for 5. He also drove in 2 of the 3 Dodger runs in Game 6 of the World Series to force a Game 7. Even if Mookie doesn't return to his usual self ever again, the Dodgers still absolutely fleece the Red Sox, and the only people to blame for that are Shane Bloom, the Red Sox chief baseball officer at the time, for executing the trade, and John Henry for signing off on it. It wasn't even Mookie Betts not wanting to be there anymore. He said on the All the Smoke podcast back in January,
"As quiet as it's kept, I enjoy watching Red Sox games."
Do you still?
Because of Cora. I love Alex Cora, and I enjoy watching Red Sox games because I enjoy. Like, people think I hate it. People think I didn't want to be there, and I was all a facade. Like, it's still business. Business is business. You have to be able to separate business from personal. Now, being personal, like my personal relationship with Boston, as I said, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
The Red Sox just decided they'd rather not pay him what he's worth. That, along with various other things, have gotten the Red Sox to finish in last place more than they have made the playoffs since then. The Red Sox are also the 3rd most valuable team in Major League Baseball according to Forbes, just behind the Yankees and Dodgers, and John Henry is the 6th richest owner. Money is certainly not a concern for the Red Sox. They just haven't been able to retool the way they hoped to when they traded Mookie Betts to the Dodgers. The return package just wasn't nearly enough if they really didn't want to pay their homegrown star what he's worth. Blame the Red Sox, not the Dodgers. And for me as a Yankees fan, thank you for getting him off the Red Sox. Why couldn't the Braves pay Freddie Freeman what he's worth after he helped them win the 2021 World Series, hitting .318 with 2 home runs for the series? They replaced him with Matt Olson, who they traded for and immediately extended for 8 years at $168 million, while Freeman signed with the Dodgers for less total money, but for 2 fewer seasons, so still with a higher AAV. Olson has hit for more power in Atlanta, but Freeman has hit for a better average, has gotten on base more, and has certainly been more clutch in the postseason for the Dodgers, becoming the first player to hit a walk-off home run multiple times in the World Series. The Braves haven't even gotten to the NLCS since Freeman left for the Dodgers. Again, blame the Braves, not the Dodgers, for not paying their homegrown star what he's worth. His replacement hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been nearly as clutch. Next up, my New York Yankees, who have been known for being big spenders throughout their history, especially since George Steinbrenner bought the team in 1973. Having money has only bailed them out of their bad front office decisions during the regular season, and having Aaron Boone as a yes man to be their manager for 8 years and definitely counting has only held them back. They had their chance against the Dodgers if it weren't for a series of horrible managing decisions, or if anyone one besides Juan Soto was able to hit consistently for the Yankees, and if it weren't for the horrible defense, especially in that infamous 5th inning of Game 5, a good manager would have made a mound visit by the time the second error was made during that infamous meltdown. The Yankees may be the most valuable franchise in Major League Baseball, and sure, it's gotten them Garrett Cole and helped them retain Aaron Judge, but they've also signed some horrible contracts that they can hide in the regular season because they have money. It hasn't gotten them a championship in 16 years though. This season, the Yankees had to pay Marcus Stroman, DJ LeMahieu, and Aaron Hicks a total of $43,785,714 to not even play for them. Hicks hasn't even been on the team for 2.5 seasons now. That money could have been spent on Bryce Harper and or Freddie Freeman. Again, I can't blame the Dodgers. The Yankees also have had a history of Japanese players playing for them. None of them as dominant as Ohtani or Yamamoto, sure, but we as Yankees fans definitely can't complain about the Dodgers getting all the Japanese stars. We only can complain that the championship or bust mentality died with George Steinbrenner, and they've become a complacent organization. Steve Cohen was supposed to be a savior for the Mets as a guy who's willing to spend big, unlike the previous owners of the Wilpons, who were known for being insanely stingy for a big market team, right? The Mets haven't made the playoffs in back-to-back years in any year Cohen's owned the team, and this year was a colossal disaster. They went all in on Juan Soto, a great player, no doubt about it, but forgot to address their pitching and were poorly managed too. The Mets have had their share of Japanese players join them too. Okay, they couldn't get a good one until Kodai Senga, and Senga was only good for his first season. Still, they went from stingy to reckless, and that's their problem, not the Dodgers. It was a crushing blow for the Blue Jays to be one win away from winning their first championship since 1993, only to lose the last 2 games at home. They overcame an injury to Bo Bichette to get to the World Series and an injury to George Springer during the World Series to win games 4 and 5, which was definitely impressive. They still shot themselves in the foot too many times for anyone to blame the Dodgers having an unfair advantage. Bad base running and the bullpen cost the Blue Jays this series. Besides, the Blue Jays had the 5th highest payroll in Major League Baseball this year, so clearly money is not a problem for them. Game 3 in the 18-inning game, Bo Bichette assumed it was ball 4 on what was called strike 2, and yes, that should have been ball 4. I will not argue with anyone on that. However, you have to be more heads up than to just think it's ball 4, even with a late call. Bichette also had enough time to retreat back to first base when Will Smith tossed the ball back to Tyler Glasnow before pointing to first, and strike 2 had already been called. That should have made the difference between the Blue Jays winning in 9 innings and the Dodgers winning in 18 innings, because Dalton Varsho was walked on the very next pitch anyways, and Alejandro Kirk was able to move him over to third, which would have driven in Bichette. Game 6, Addison Barger running on contact with 1 out in the 9th inning, only to get doubled up at second base to end the game. Baseball is a situational game. If you're not aware of the situation in a game where everything is situational, that's on you, not the Dodgers having any kind of unfair advantages. The Blue Jays cost themselves the World Series with their lack of situational awareness. The Blue Jays' lack of situational awareness didn't stop it even in Game 7. George Springer assuming it was ball 4 when it was actually strike 3 on Vladdy Jr. You can never assume in baseball. I would think someone who's won a World Series, has been the World Series MVP before, whether his team cheated or not, would know that from ever having played on the biggest stage before. Why did IKF slide when there was a force at home? You run through home plate just like you would through first base in that situation, period. Not having a secondary lead didn't help him beat that throw either. Aside from the horrible base running in the World Series, the Blue Jays didn't have the best bullpen. Neither did the Dodgers, but they were able to convert Roki Sasaki from an injured starter to their closer and have Yoshinobu Yamamoto finish Game 7 just after pitching so well in Game 6. The Blue Jays weren't able to find ways to overcome their subpar bullpen, and again, that's not the Dodgers' fault. it wasn't Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, or Freddie Freeman that hit the game-tying home run to eventually send it to extra innings in Game 7, or the go-ahead home run to win in the 11th inning. A guy who hit just .238 against righties on the season and hit just 200 in 3 World Series games is the one who tied the game. It's not always the big names who come up huge in the postseason, which we've seen throughout the game's history. I've never heard of an unsung hero who could possibly contribute to ruining baseball, and Miguel Rojas just added his name to a long list of unsung heroes in postseason history. The guy who hit the go-ahead home run, Will Smith. Yes, he's a 3-time All-Star, but he's actually a homegrown star, not someone the Dodgers bought, and the extension that they signed him to last year is only $14 million per season. Doesn't sound unfair to me at all. Lastly, is it the Dodgers' fault that the Tigers, even after making the playoffs, don't want to pay Tariq Skubal the money he deserves, the best pitcher in Major League Baseball? They have the 3rd richest owner in Major League Baseball, and we're hearing about Skubal possibly getting traded because they don't want to pay him while he's still 28? There's also the Milwaukee Brewers facing a decision on whether or not to pay Freddie Peralta what he's worth as their ace or trade him. Paying him should be a no-brainer. Okay, their owner, Mark Atanasio, is not one of the richest owners in baseball, and the Brewers do not have the highest budget either, but they just had the best record in Major League Baseball with just the 19th highest payroll. They should be looking to build upon this. They have the 15th highest payroll going into this season, and I know they are a small market team and may not be able to spend like the Yankees, Dodgers, or Mets do. Still, surely they can look to at least spend a little more than they are right now to bring home a championship when they're already a contender now. How about the possibility of the Cincinnati Reds trading their 26-year-old ace, Hunter Green, when they too were a playoff team this year? Sure, the Reds may have only barely made the playoffs, but it's still something they can build upon with their top prospect, Sal Stewart, who got to play 18 games this year at just 21 years old, should be better next year, and if the Reds are actually cheap enough to not want to pay Hunter Green just $8 million next year or $15 million the following year, or if they choose not to pay any of their other future homegrown stars that are in their farm system now what they end up being worth, that's their fault, nobody else's. There's also the A's. Has Moneyball actually worked for them? Yes and no. Yes, because they've had some seasons since the year the movie took place where they exceeded their expectations, but no, because they've only won 1 playoff series in that entire span. Did their owner, John Fisher, ever really need to be so cheap? I don't think so at all. He's had no issues making political donations, but he's not willing to spend money on his baseball team, nor has he even attended his own team's games in nearly 2 full seasons in their final days in Oakland. The A's have fans, and it's John Fisher's fault that we see all those empty seats when we turn on their games. Their last game in Oakland was sold out just for the sake of the fans voicing their displeasure with Fisher. They have the ability to develop their prospects, and that's what's gotten them to exceed expectations for a few stretches since Moneyball, but they just don't want to pay their guys. That's on them. Oh yeah, they also gave up on Max Muncy too soon. The Dodgers gave Muncy a chance, and now he's their all-time postseason home run leader and got to be part of all 3 Dodger championships since 2020. It's not the Dodgers' fault that some owners are just not willing to spend money. Even though the Dodgers are a team that's capable of spending a lot of money, and there are other owners that are not capable of spending much even if they wanted to, or the Steve Cohns or the Art Morenos of the world that have no idea how to allocate their money when they have enough of it, or the complacent ones like Hal Steinbrenner, the Dodgers are back-to-back champions simply because they were able to hire Andrew Friedman in 2015 as their president of baseball operations to do a better job at allocating their money properly than their previous executives. The Dodgers already had the highest payroll even before he came in. The Tampa Bay Rays, as a small market team, lost to the Dodgers in the 2020 World Series with Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow. This year, they were the 2 highest paid Dodgers. Blake Snell didn't sign with anybody coming off his second Cy Young award until just before the season started last year. The years between his 2 Cy Young awards were a concern, but the Dodgers took a chance after Snell opted out of the second year of the contract he signed with the Giants. Yeah, what are the Dodgers supposed to do if they have a chance to bolster their pitching right in front of them? Care about everyone else's feelings? Now for the Dodgers themselves. Even with all the money that they have, it was not an easy road to repeating at all. Even with Ohtani being able to pitch this year, which he couldn't do last year due to having Tommy John surgery, and after adding Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki to strengthen their pitching in the offseason. If you've watched sports long enough, whether you've seen your team win a championship in your lifetime or not, you know it is difficult to win. No matter how stacked your team may look on paper, you still play the games because you never know what could happen. Mookie Betts had a down year and the bullpen struggled all year. The Dodgers brought in Tanner Scott to be their closer for $72 million for 4 years. He happened to be a total disaster. Roki Sasaki was derailed by injuries and struggled even when he was healthy. Snell was injured for much of the season too and only pitched 11 games in the regular season this year. The Dodgers were 10-14 in the month of July and had a very up and down August too. They also got swept by the lowly Pittsburgh Pirates to begin the month of September. The big adjustment in the postseason due to the bullpen issues was to make Sasaki the closer, and he had an ERA under 1 for the entire postseason. I firmly believe the Dodgers should not fix what's not broken and keep him as their closer while cutting their losses with Tanner Scott. In the playoffs, the Dodgers may have only lost 1 game on their way to the World Series, but very easily could have needed a 5th game in the NLDS if Orion Kerkering didn't panic and just threw to first base for the easy 3rd out. In the World Series, the Dodgers had to win an 18-inning game. They found themselves down 3-2 and on the ropes in Game 7. Just because they have a financial advantage over other teams doesn't mean they are doing anything wrong. So once again, don't be mad at the Dodgers for just being a well-run organization. There are owners that are capable of spending that don't spend very smart, and other owners who are just stingy. The Blue Jays had this series in their hands and let it slip away. They have no one to blame but themselves. Congrats Dodger fans on becoming the first team to successfully defend their title in 25 years. If anyone is telling you it's not fair, you can show them this video from someone who's not even a Dodger fan. You deserve to celebrate this. You no longer have to hear about the Mickey Mouse ring stuff because you got to win back-to-back under normal circumstances. Don't take it for granted either, because those of us who've been around sports for a long time know it's not even easy to win 1 championship, let alone back-to-back. おめでとうございます。すごいよくできました。You know what else is crazy, and you definitely can't blame the Dodgers for this? For all the money that the Dodgers spend, they also have the top-ranked farm system right now. They've been developing their own guys too for years, not just buying talent. Clayton Kershaw, and hey, congrats to him for going out a champion, by the way. Walker Buehler, Corey Seager, Will Smith. You can't deny that the Dodgers know how to develop their own guys too, not just spend on the biggest guys in the market. That's all for this video. Do you think the Dodgers will three-peat? They're already the first team since the Yankees in 2000 to repeat as champions, but would also be the first team since the 2000 Yankees to three-peat if they manage to win another World Series next year. I'd love to read your comments on that down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. If you want to see more from me, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications to never miss out. If you're already subscribed, thanks so much for your support as always, and if you're a new subscriber, welcome to the team. Links to my social media are down below for my more immediate reactions to what's going on in the sports world. If you'd like to see my most recent video and the one that YouTube recommends, both are up above. Thank you so much for watching. Again, congratulations Dodgers fans, or for my Japanese friends, おめでとうございます。